Frustration mounting among people in Jacksonville. Concerns about video showing police using force against citizens. And now the questions. Is it excessive force? Is there a pattern? Does the color of your skin determine the outcomes of interaction between officers and others? Our roundtable discussion and a look at some of the cases fueling the anxiety and the anger on This Week in Jacksonville. Thanks for joining us this Sunday morning. A 22-year-old Vernell Bing Jr. died in the hospital this week after being shot in the head by a 7-year veteran with the sheriff's office. That was 1 week ago today. Bing's family and community activists are speaking out. They held this rally Tuesday in his memory. And Bing's mother says her son has a criminal history, but she says he didn't deserve to be shot in the head Sunday. She added that in the neighborhood where her son was shot, young people are at war with each other.
They're going at each other because it's a war out here. And the leaders of that war is JSO.
Yes.
Right in this city it is.
That's right.
We want it to be fixed where if they shoot another child, we want all this corrected. Yeah. We don't want it to keep going on and sweeping it on the rug. It's time to lift that rug up and see how much of dust up under there.
Come on, sis.
Now, Bing was shot after crashing head-on into a police cruiser. Following a 5-minute chase, officers say they spotted him driving that red Camaro, and they'd been looking for that car, wanting it in connection with a shooting last month. Now, we had our investigative unit, the I-Team, compiling data from our internal records here at News4Jax. Over the past 7.5 years, here's what we found. At least 70 people were shot by Jacksonville police, all males except for one woman. 41 have died, 29 were injured. 8 of those shot were not armed, and not all of the others were armed with a gun necessarily. Some were armed with a knife, a car, or had taken the officer's taser. 70 shot, 53 of them black males, 14 white males, 2 Hispanic males, and as we mentioned, 1 female. Now, breaking that down just a little bit further, the 53 black males made up 76% of all the suspects shot. Based on the last census data in 2010, Duval County's population is 30% African American. All right, so based on our records in search going back to 1996, no Jacksonville police officer has been criminally charged for any wrongdoing in a police-involved shooting. Since 2009, we found 3 officers have been reprimanded, 2 over the same incident, and both resigned during the review process. A third was reprimanded originally, later, we're told, reinstated. So if 7-year police veteran Officer Tyler Landerville had been wearing a video camera, the public would have a clearer picture of what happened when he shot Vernell Bing Sunday in Springfield. At least that's the argument being made by those who are urging the sheriff's office to equip officers with cameras. Sheriff Mike Williams sent us a statement this week. He reiterates that JSO is looking into what happened. He also says he's in favor of getting body cameras, but they're expensive to buy and maintain. The sheriff says he'll need to set aside a few $1 million for that to become a reality.
No racist police! No justice! No peace! No racist!
Several groups demonstrating are asking for Jacksonville Sheriff's officers to be held accountable after 3 high-profile cases. An officer beating Myra Martinez at the jail. This fight at a Northwest Jack's convenience store where video shows an officer punching a man several times. And now a police-involved shooting in Springfield where an officer shot this man in the head even though witnesses say he was running away.
No justice! No peace! No racist police!
Many are demanding officers wear body cameras, but so far, Jacksonville's officers do not. The sheriff, Mike Williams, has told us before that he's looking at the possibility, but they'd be very expensive for such a large department that has around 1,600 officers on the street. Agencies across the country, big and small, already use the technology, and the government is offering grants to many who apply. In 2015, 73 agencies got grants, 21,000 cameras worth more than $19 million. And those include big departments like Miami-Dade, Chicago, Detroit, Orlando, also small ones like St. Mary's, Georgia.
So it is another tool.
Bradford County Sheriff Gordon Smith spending $60,000 ordering body cameras for his 25 deputies. Some already wear them, but they're not mandatory. He says while they can help, they're not the fix-all.
I have people come in and look at something that me and you would look at and go, yeah, he did that. And the people sitting here looking go, well, I didn't see that. And you go, wait a minute. You back it up, show it to them 10 times, they don't want to believe it.
This is from an incident in West Palm Beach. At first, it looks like the officers might have been excessive.
You got a hold of me, man.
But a wider angle shows an unruly and potentially dangerous suspect. We spoke with a captain of the Miami-Dade Police Department. They started using body cameras about 2 weeks ago. It's costing them about $5.5 million to buy the cameras, then maintain them for 5 years. They've got a few hundred more officers than JSO, but it goes to show that the move would not be cheap. We did ask Sheriff Mike Williams to appear with us today. His spokesperson told us that he wasn't available. Also explained that it doesn't make sense to take part in any speculation or rumor at this point. And so in our next segment, we will try to get more from a law enforcement perspective. We'll do that with Gil Smith, the man who served 26 years in JSO. Right now, our table is nearly full here. Dexter Van Davis, Richard Brown, John Phillips all joining us. We've interviewed each of these gentlemen on separate cases, each attorneys in our area. Today, the first time that we've been able to get together like this, and each of you representing some people in cases where police officers are seen on camera striking your client. So this is a chance maybe to make your case, so to speak. And I also want to bring up, we saw in some of the video there, the tension is kind of rising in our city about interaction between normal citizens and the police. Dexter, why don't you start the conversation here?
Well, I'll talk about a recent case is DeMarcus Brown. You can see the video that the officer is doing something wrong, but I guess when JSO look at that same video, they may see something different. Here it is, an innocent young man that's going in to check on his father at a convenience store that's being raided, and then he finds himself taken down by an officer, punched repeatedly, taken into a storage facility, punched again, only to be arrested for what they find is resisting arrest with violence. And they thought he was a drug dealer, but he wasn't. And not only that, his father was in there as well. You talk about videotaping, even not with body cams, but his father had a cell phone, and the officer knocked the cell phone out of his hand. And when the community see things like that, you know, officers are supposed to be there for safety, for community safety. But in our eyes, and talking to Ms. Peoples, in her eyes, you got kids in the store, convenience store, they raided it in the middle of the day at 5 o'clock, maybe in the afternoon, and they put a lot more folks at danger. And not only did they do it to her victim, or now alleged defendant, but other citizens who were there shopping at that convenience store.
Well, one of the things, and I think all of us will want to weigh in on this, but one of the things I want to point out there is, right now, all we've got is one perspective, if you will. We've heard from Rhonda Peoples-Waters, you were mentioning, the attorney for DeMarcus Brown. We see the video, but we don't have that other side of the story. John or Richard, is it easy to jump to conclusions about who's in the right and who's in the wrong there?
Go ahead, Richard.
Well, I think sometimes it is as it appears to be. I mean, you know, the video doesn't tell everything, but it tells us something. And it certainly tells us that DeMarcus Brown, in that particular case, did not assault any police officer, didn't commit violence on any police officer. It shows that violence was committed upon him. And for them to then do that and then charge him with doing the very thing that they did is something of a disconnect in the way policing is done in Jacksonville. Right. And that's the sort of thing that has to change.
So, gentlemen, I think it gets a little uncomfortable here, but it's a topic in our city right now. Is race playing a part in any of the interactions that we're seeing? And, John, let me come to you. Myra Martinez, your client here, and we've got video of what happened here. This is not an African-American woman. It's an African-American police officer. And in this case, the officer is held accountable kind of right away, arrested, fired, and what have you. Is that because the color of somebody's skin is different?
Well, she's Hispanic by origin, but either way, the issue with the reason Officer Borsati was terminated is because he wasn't yet in the powerful entity known as the Fraternal Order of Police yet. He didn't have his tenure. By example.
First-year
he was a rookie.
Officer.
And so they were able to fire him without a lot of the checks and balances that JSO has. So from that angle, it's not an isolated incident. But look at those videos. They weren't intentional. They weren't body cameras. They weren't police dash cams. It was a good Samaritan who pulled up with the dash cam, and then it was surveillance that really, that's not what it was supposed to do. That wasn't its objective, was to catch police misconduct, but it did. Our main concern was that we only got that very little snippet of 2 minutes and then made a big deal. Hey, she went unconscious. We know she was unconscious, and it took us a week to get the full video, and even then, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office released it to YouTube before they released it to the offender/victim. And we're dealing with that, and I know my fellow counsel here have dealt with that from the perspective of, we just want to know the story. Our client has been charged with a crime and is a victim of police brutality to some end. And we want to be able to resolve all of that without the frustrations that we're seeing now with the Bean case and things boiling up.
Yeah, so the two questions, DeMarcus Brown and Myra Martinez, more recent events. Gentlemen, you represent Kelly Wilson, who we did a story with 9 months ago or so. That's a case, and we want to show you video here as well, where she was kind of a bystander watching something happen and then got into an interaction with police where it was about her phone. They said, don't use your phone, put your phone down, or what have you. Where does that stand? Because after what you're going to see here with an officer striking her, again about the phone is missing, and we still don't have, I guess, JSO's perspective. What really happened? Why did that happen?
It's unbelievable that did happen. The fact that she has a phone, hadn't done anything wrong. They have no basis to demand the phone or take her phone. She bags away. They take the phone, then they punch her. They punch this female. 2 male officers punch her, and not only after the punch, when they get on the ground, they do knee strikes to release the phone for a woman who did absolutely nothing. And then to top that off, they bring charges against her. They batter her, they beat her, they tackle her, and then they bring charges against her.
So let me take that other perspective. What it looked like, and we can't hear this, unfortunately, looked like the police officers were giving her some instructions. Now, as Joe Blow, normal citizen, I need to follow those instructions, don't I?
Well, not if it's an illegal instruction. Officers, we expect them to do things lawful. But an unlawful order, the law gives you the right to refuse an unlawful order. And what they was trying to get her to do was give up a cell phone, and that was unlawful. It had no basis.
I don't mean to interrupt. Consider for a moment, Kent, if you would just walk outside the studio, just taking a stroll down the street, and the police officer comes up to you and just tells you, take off your shoes and give them to me. Now, what would your
reaction? Question in my mind, why?
Why do I need to give you my shoes, take off my shoes and give them to you? And what is your lawful authority to do that? And that is the bedrock basis of our country, is that we're not a police state, and that if a citizen is going to have something taken from them by a government official, which a police officer is, there has to be a legal basis for him asking that or demanding that. They can't just take your things.
Yeah. And
there are rules.
So there's about a minute left here, John.
There are rules to the use of force, just like there are anything. They've been written down. And with Ms. Martinez's case, we not only had use of force in the parking lot, we had unreasonable use of force in the jailhouse facility, and then they let that poor girl lay there with face on the concrete for 15 minutes without checking on her. The only move was for Officer Borsati to push her against the wall. And then they sent the EMTs. The very officer that caused her the injury was able to send the EMTs away against their medical advice. Whether we're dealing with, the punching that was unnecessary of a guy just going into a store, or that manner of escalation, we need answers, and we need better accountability.
Well, I appreciate it. All of you have individual cases. I think on a broader perspective, there's a lot of folks in the community saying, we need answers. So thank you for your perspective this morning and talking with us. Coming up, a man with more than 25 years experience as a police officer in Jacksonville, our crime and safety analyst, Gil Smith. He'll join us and talk about why we may not have heard the answers yet. That's next on This Week in Jacksonville.
This is Pastor R.J. Washington of the Titus Harvest Dome. Join us on Channel 4 every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. We're going to have a God time. Yes.
We want to hide you.
Don't yawn talk during your Memorial Day barbecue. Come to Mattress Firm's biggest Memorial Day sale, where all mattresses are on sale. Plus, for 2 hours only, Friday through Monday, get special doorbuster savings, like pillow top queen sets for just $199.99, or a 2-pack of memory foam pillows for just $18.99. Now through Monday, only at Mattress Firm's Memorial Day sale.
Every Hyundai dealer, every Hyundai in stock. One mega Memorial Day sale. All month long, your Hyundai dealers are giving you countless ways to save. Plus, America's best warranty. 10 years, 100,000 miles. That's 5 years longer than the competition. During Hyundai's mega Memorial Day sale, get our best deals of the year. Make no monthly payments for 6 months on the 2017 Elantra and 2016 Sonata. Plus, we salute those who serve with an additional $1,000 military coupon at your Greater Jacksonville Hyundai dealer.
What an 8-month I-Team investigation uncovered was so big, the federal government stepped in.
How much of that is due to what we exposed at Eureka Gardens?
I think it's almost exclusively due to that.
Getting results for local families.
Senator Marco Rubio submitted 2 amendments for a vote.
The I-Team, uncovering, exposing, getting results.
We wanted to prove the value of Nissan's Intelligent Safety Shield technologies.
Hey, you want to go for a ride?
So we enlisted some everyday experts.
I'm a firefighter.
I'm a nurse.
With rear cross traffic alert. It worked. Blind spot warning. And forward emergency braking that could stop your car for you. Get to Nissan's Safety Today event. And for a limited time, save up to $2,000 on select models.
We might be out of a job.
Shop your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today.
As consumers who pay our insurance premiums on time, we assume that our homeowners' auto and business claims will be properly evaluated and paid in good faith by our own insurance companies. Yet, many times, we find that's not the case. The reason is simple. Insurance companies are in business to make a profit. If you believe that your claim has been underpaid or denied, or if you'd just like us to review it before taking their final offer, call us or visit forthepeople.com. Morgan & Morgan, for the people.
Severe thunderstorm, Clay County. Lightning, heavy.
When severe weather hits.
Right now. I just sent you an alert. If you live in Orange Park, get ready.
The Weather Authority keeps your family safe. Tracking storms, explaining minute by minute.
Heavy rains heading your way with lots of lightning.
And alerting even when your power is out. Download the Weather Authority app. Enable push alerts and location. Stay connected. The Weather Authority. Always watching, always tracking. You're watching This Week in Jacksonville with Kent Justice.
And here with us now in this segment, News for Jack's crime and safety analyst, Gil Smith, 26 years with JSO. Help us, all of us, understand why we're not hearing JSO's position on what we just talked about in the last segment.
Because that's standard procedure. Whenever a case is under review and it goes to internal affairs or it's being investigated, officers can't discuss it. They can't, not only can they not discuss it with the media, they can't even discuss it with fellow officers. It's something they have to maintain, they have to be quiet about. Even if it's a minor case, something dealing with shoplifting or any kind of allegation, they're not allowed to speak. So when you have the other side, the defendant's people talking.
That's who we're hearing from,
right? You're hearing from attorneys, you hear from family. When you so often hear from other people, it gives the impression that you might want to lean toward their side because those are the people that you're hearing from. And it sort of gives the impression that the police department may be trying to hide something or being deceptive because they're not speaking of it. And it's simply because it's under investigation.
There's a civil rights group that this week posted an open letter saying, hey, we're not getting transparency from the sheriff and his office, and it looks like they're hiding something. But you're saying, hey, procedurally, can't do anything else?
Exactly. Now, once the case is completed, then it's public record. That's one thing about Florida. They have the sunshine laws where everything is open record. Some states, you can't get any of these reports or any of these investigative findings. But in the state of Florida, all that's open to public review, and they can have the full investigative findings once it's complete.
So we're seeing videos of interactions between police officers and in these cases that we just showed you a moment ago where they're striking people. Now, you wanted to show us here, this is DeMarcus Brown, the case from just a week or so ago where he's inside a convenience store. And what we're hearing from his attorney is, hey, not only was he beaten up inside, he was pulled into another room and beaten up there, too. You went to this location. What did you see here as we cycle through these images?
Now, I'm not discussing whether he was right or wrong, if he acted properly or not. That'll come through in the investigation. But when I first saw this story, I saw the first image that you had up with where the officers had him by the counter. And then I see this image of him in a storage closet. And the first thing I thought, I'm sure many other people did too, was I thought at first, wait a minute, these officers picked this guy up, carried him into a storage room, beat on him to get away from the public or to get away from cameras. And I was very suspicious of that. And one of the community activists in the neighborhood called me and asked me to come out to the neighborhood and look at the store. And what I found is that when I walked in, I saw that, you see in this other shot, you can see on the right, That on the right is where Mr. Brown was stopped. And then if you're trying to get him down, again, I don't know if they were correct in doing that or not, but if you take 2 steps and fall, you end up in that room. So that's what I mean, that we didn't get that perspective from the 3 angles that we have. It gave the appearance that he was carried somewhere, taken into a room, but you can actually fall down and end up in that room there.
Well, one of the things that we've discussed over the many months when we get these videos out, oftentimes I'll bring it to you or one of our reporters will say, hey, walk me through what you see. What you see needs to also include what you hear in order to get a bigger picture of what really is going on. Is that right?
Right. In the last case, they were talking about the lady who had the cell phone who was taken down. We didn't hear what was going on between her and the officer. Were the officers giving her verbal commands? Were they telling her to move away? Like in a situation like that, she has the right to have her cell phone, but when I was on the streets and I was arresting someone, I would not allow them to have their cell phone with them because they could be calling someone, having them, bring some people in to disrupt what police are doing. So I would not allow them to use cell phones while I was making an arrest.
So if you tell them to put the cell phone down, is that a lawful order? The attorneys we just heard from a moment ago were saying it's not a lawful order to take your personal property if there's no need.
Well, you have to look at it in terms of officer safety. Now, an arrestee, he's temporarily loses those rights, so I take them away. I would ask people, if I see them talking on the phone, if I believe that they're calling people in to attack me, then yes, I would take that cell phone.
Yeah.
I just have to be able to explain why it was done.
I'm not trying to shortchange you, but a minute or less, Sheriff Williams has said he's not in favor of citizen review boards. What do you think about that idea, independent review boards for cases like this?
Well, it depends. They have one in Chicago. They still do independent review authority. But the head of the authority is was a former DEA agent. And now the current person is a former federal prosecutor. So I think if they do have something like that, it should be someone with law enforcement experience, particularly local law enforcement experience, because the federal agencies do police work different than the local authorities. So, but then again, should be someone that local leaders also approve of and get their recommendation on who should be on these boards, because it's about accountability.
It's got to be a coordinated effort,
Exactly.
It sounds like. Our coverage of the story doesn't end here. I want you to go online right now on our website. We have much more, including previous stories that we've done on all of these, including this latest officer-involved shooting. Just look for the links inside the name of the story on the homepage on newsforjax.com. Gil Smith, appreciate your perspectives this morning. Thank you. All right, refocusing on politics in the next segment. Stay with us for This Week in Jacksonville.
Now is the best time to lease a 2016 ATS from Claude Nolan Cadillac. Drive a 2016 Cadillac ATS for just $299 a month for 36 months. And remember the Claude Nolan Edge. No dealer fees, no finance markup, saving you thousands. Come in for a test drive today.
Golden Corral's 7-day shrimp extravaganza. Make your weekend shrimp-tastic. New garlic parmesan shrimp skewers, peel and eat shrimp, Southwest grilled shrimp, and coconut shrimp. Dinners $13.99. Monday through Thursday, enjoy shrimp Creole, shrimp tacos, and more. Dinners $11.99. Only at Golden Corral.
Storm Pins, the new weather sharing app. Fun family beach day, pin it. Unexpected rainbow, pin it. A fast moving storm, pin it. The Weather Authority Storm Pins, powered by Southern Oak Insurance. Our family protecting yours.
We wanted to prove the value of Nissan's Intelligent Safety Shield technologies.
Hey, you want to go for a ride?
So we enlisted some everyday experts.
I'm a firefighter. I'm a nurse.
With rear cross traffic alert. It worked. Blind spot warning. And forward emergency braking that could stop your car for you. Get to Nissan's Safety Today event. And for a limited time, save up to $2,500 on Altima. Or lease Sentra just $139 per month.
We might be out of a job.
Shop your local Nissan store and choose Nissan.com today.
I am dedicated to defending our Constitution, safeguarding individual liberties, and respecting the rule of law.
Republican Melissa Nelson, the constitutional conservative, praised by the NRA and respected by law enforcement.
Northeast Florida families deserve safe streets and a justice system that is tough but fair.
Melissa Nelson's 12 years of experience as a prosecutor means she knows how to get the job done. Melissa Nelson, a conservative we can trust. Sponsored by First Coast Values.
My friends call it Sarah's famous potato salad. It's the star of every potluck, picnic, you name it. And everybody says to me, Sarah, what's your secret? Well, it's the Dukes. How do I know? Because I've changed the potatoes, the pickles, but never the Dukes. And they've never changed that recipe. So as long as they keep making Dukes, I'll keep bringing home an empty bowl.
Made with the same recipe since 1917, Duke's smooth and creamy mayonnaise is the secret to great food.
Can your kid's sunscreen pass the wet skin challenge? Neutrogena Wet Skin does. On wet skin, ordinary sunscreen mixes with water and drips. Neutrogena Wet Skin sprays on and stays on. Forms a UVA-UVB barrier. Wet Skin. Neutrogena.
At Claude Nolan Cadillac, every customer receives the Claude Nolan Edge. It's simple. No dealer fees, no finance markup, saving you thousands. Get the Edge. Save time and money and start driving your Claude Nolan Cadillac today.
It's a hot new trend in weight loss. Detoxing.
I lost about 5 pounds and I feel great. It was not good.
Is it safe? Next Oz. Monday at 4 on Channel 4.
Now an update on Global Ministries Foundation, the owner of Eureka Gardens in Washington Heights in Jacksonville. Senator Marco Rubio sent letters this week to 3 federal agencies and a congressional committee asking them to investigate the foundation. Senator Rubio minced no words, saying, quote, "It's my hope the coordinated effort of responsible agencies can correct the failures created by a faulty process and a slumlord." He sent letters to Attorney General Loretta Lynch, Treasury Secretary Jacob Lew, HUD Secretary Julian Castro, and Richard Shelby, the chairman of the Senate Committee on Banking, Housing, and Urban Affairs. Rubio raised concerns about GMF's mission to, quote, "minister to the physical, spiritual, and emotional needs of its residents," and its tax status as a 501c3 organization. GMF receives $6 million each year for its Jacksonville properties, and Rubio wants to know how that money was spent on repairs. This comes nearly 2 weeks after Rubio came to Jacksonville to tour Eureka Gardens. That's when he told a GMF spokesperson, quote, "What you've done here is horrifying." Rubio is also on a mission to reform HUD's inspection process. The News4Jax I-team first told you about deteriorating conditions and safety issues at Eureka Gardens 8 months ago. Since then, GMF has put its Jacksonville properties up for sale. Thanks so much for joining us. This Week in Jacksonville airs each Sunday morning at this time. Republican Congressman and U.S. Senate candidate David Jolly joins us soon, plus Rod Smith, the former state lawmaker and leader of the Florida Democratic Party. We're also working to let you hear from Lieutenant Governor and Senate candidate Carlos Lopez-Quintero. I'm Kent Justice. Thanks for watching on air and online at news4jax.com.
At News4Jax, we're always covering the news, even when we're not on TV. Stay informed, on the go, and online at news4jax.com.